yes, for some time, and it's unavoidable, and at the same time it is useful. These efforts that the mind is trying to uh, be aware of awareness. The mind, which it's not, the mind is not a fourth-way term. It's interesting how vague it is. But you said in the sense of me or the sense of a person, so it's more like a consciousness, like our true nature, hypnotized as being Mihai. Mihai now is trying to be aware of awareness. So apparently, I mean, that doesn't work. Just like it's a little bit akin to, you have a screen, like a nice big TV screen, but in this metaphor, the screen is also conscious. So it's not that like the viewer is viewing the screen and on the screen there is the movie. Let's imagine that the viewer and the screen are one and the same. So the screen is conscious. And however, the screen is unconscious of its own existence and is hooked into the movie. And in the movie, there is this character, Mihai, that is actually made of the screen, appears in the screen, and this character, Mihai, is trying to be aware of the screen. And that is only going to be frustrated, perpetually frustrated. But these efforts, the efforts of dedication of this effort are useful somehow. And actually all of this, even if what I'm saying now doesn't make a lot of sense, just studying the system, and so trying to meditate regularly or trying to observe oneself and observe triggers and all of this creates some sense of muscle, spiritual, psychological muscle, as well as it increases the sense of verifying. We are verifying these ideas, verifying the idea of sleep, verifying and then it increases the sense of valuation, somehow valuation for the work, valuation for conscious work. Because as we will see when we go into the levels of men today, there are different levels in terms of humanity and in terms of the potential development, spiritual, psychological, emotional consciousness development of humanity. So a large part of the majority of humanity is not interested in awakening or being conscious. They're not interested, and also they assume they will already have it. And so there's no effort is made, and there's a next level of man which is starts to have gradual appreciation and evaluation for these ideas, and then this in itself goes through various stages, because initially, anyway, we're going to go into it soon. So, but just valuing this, and this being the priority, this being a bigger and bigger focus of one's life, that is necessary. Because if it's just some other hobby or some temporary thing, like a phase, then it's not going to go very far. So even though we don't have some realization of our true nature, or that which is aware right now, instead of just aware of these images and sounds, to be aware of one's own presence, even if it doesn't happen for some time, all the efforts, they strengthen our one pointedness of focus, so to say, which in the beginning is not like that. When I was young, I was really passionate about this, and I was passionate about being girls and about getting watches and whatever. So I had like scattered the focus was scattered, and somehow it takes some time for this interest to be focus more and more about this work. It's more like in the fourth way, there's this idea that you know, this awakening is a chemical process also. So there are serious changes happening with the body mind machine, where the factory, the refinery factory, who is chronically in the habit of misusing the energy that is taken from food, air, and impressions, is chronically leaked, and all of that. And so we are used to that, leaked in imagination, identification, expression of unpleasant emotions, considering unnecessary talk. These are the obstacles we'll talk later. So I think that there is a shift that happens gradually of a changing of some internal chemistry, or as in the fourth way, they call it the hydrogens. So there's something happens gradually. It's a little bit like everything is like that. You want to have a cookie. You have to bake the cookie. The cookie has to be in the oven, so it goes for some transformation, So, but as being a cookie in the oven of awakening, and all of this effort, it's very useful to have this understanding to not expect anything like something juicy, not to expect to be soft and yummy right away, not to expect something. Actually, when I was studying with Francis Lucille, even then he was giving us all these exercises, which were meant, there was not fourth way, but it was meant to break down the illusion of separation, as the consciousness is separate and limited from everything else. So he would offer these exercises, very technical and simple. And he would say this, first of all, do this only if you're really interested. Second, don't expect any result in the moment. Don't. And don't do it all the time, because then it's like, there's some kind of, something's not quite right. So, and he was saying that these exercises are paying off later, when you don't expect. In the same way with these efforts in the fourth way work of self-observation and witnessing and coming back from daydreaming, it's almost like something is jump-starting. Our reactor, consciousness reactor, is jump-starting. And actually our overall state, it raises. It doesn't go from the second state to the third state, bam! It's more like you're going to a higher level of the second state, which is not so dramatic or juicy. So, and anyway, so the idea is that we make these efforts, and then sometimes when you are not even thinking about the work, it kind of activates itself. So that's some experience you may have. And then gradually, as the refinery optimizes itself, then chemistry is different in the body and the mind, and then one will go further. And we'll talk today about 7 levels of men, or at least about 5 of them. Also, with the fear, you had some very powerful divine consciousness psychedelic experiences where you somehow the me was taken out, and then you experienced already some kind of this freaking out and this fear of disappearance, and then you, that whatever that is, the sense of me disappeared, and then it was like, oh wow, there's something remained, and actually life was much better when the me disappeared. And but it's tricky with this, because now we try to have this again, and we again want to jump on the top of the peak.
Also, I wanted to
so
add,
let just last thing, sorry, sometimes people will ask all my teachers this question and say, I don't know, this is the fear comes, it's like real intense, what should I do, what should I do? And he would say, let it devour you. And he would chuckle like this, let it devour you, knowing that it's more like a content, and if you cannot devour that which is aware, it will just pass. But I know it's scary. And what's cool about the fourth way is that because it's kind of gradual, sustainable, stable, and it's less likely to suddenly have one's own ego structure collapsed and then being drooling on somewhere on the park bench.
I was going to say too that something interesting about fear, when fear starts to flash in us, we become afraid of it. And to me, this is actually related to what Francis said, let it devour you. That is, try not to be afraid of fear when it surfaces. Because this we give it justification. Oh my gosh, I should be afraid now. Who said? So from one point of view, when we feel fear, and again, this goes back to achieving this sort of separation, this distance from ourselves. There's a feeling of fear, and then there's a feeling of me afraid. And then there's awareness. And so opening up the space between these, that's what this work is really about. And the other thing is, in Nicole's description, she said she was in the closet and suddenly it sort of became like, wow, look at all this. This is interesting. Where's this? How far is the wall from my hand or something like that? The fact is, this is how life really is. It's an incredible mystery. Just that I can take my hand and reach like this through space and touch a button on what's called a computer and have something happen. Just this. How does this happen? What is this? Look at that. Everything is really like that. But we take it so for granted. We don't, because we don't see it as it really is. We're seeing it. We just take it for granted. I'm looking at some dust on the table here, What is that? To me, by the way, dust is one of the great mysteries of the universe, how dust gathers. But nevertheless, everything is like this. And it's interesting, though, when we step out of our usual view, which is a view from sleep, psychological sleep, we're suddenly afraid. When in fact, we're starting to step into the mystery of the reality of creation. Everything is really incredible. Every little thing, every big thing to it. I mean, anyway, so this is what's on the other side of that fear, is seeing this more clearly and letting reality devour us. But again, that's I want to endorse something Mihai said, and that is to go slowly and go gradually and not try to imagine what's at the top of the mountain or over on the other mountain range, but until we get there.